Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fandomology, where fandoms collide. Welcome back to another beginner series. I know this is not Tuesday. This was initially planned to be Tuesday, but I ended up not feeling well on Tuesday, so we pushed it back to today. But anyways, we are going to have a discussion for about the next hour to hour and a half on Mortal Kombat. And I want to say hello in the chat right off the bat to Matt Cave Gaming, who says Mortal Kombat, referencing, of course, the song from the movie. But anyways, we are going to go ahead and bring in my guest for today. You guys know his face, you know his voice. He is my cousin. He is my favorite cousin, Kushinja, aka Trevor. What's up?
Howdy, guys. How's it going?
Doing well. So Trevor is, we've already had him on here before talking Persona, but that is not the only game series that Trevor has a near encyclopedic knowledge of. Trevor is also very knowledgeable in Mortal Kombat, so that's why I asked him to join.
As well as several others, but that's for another day.
Right. So let's start here. Let's start with how each of us first heard about Mortal Kombat. And I'll go first here. So what first got me into Mortal Kombat, oddly enough, was a lot of compilation videos that I was seeing either on Facebook or on YouTube of some of the funny intros from either Mortal Kombat 10 or Mortal Kombat 11. Like, for example, help me out here, Trevor. I have no quarrel with you.
Crap, I always forget this one. One that I know, please.
Okay, fine. Let me think here. Oh yeah, my favorite pupil.
I'll bet you tell Kung Lao the same thing.
With him, I mean it. You know, stuff like that, basically.
Yeah.
But I'd also seen compilation videos also of the fatalities, and at first I was absolutely repulsed by them because I'll be honest, I'm a little bit squeamish sometimes. But finally, my curiosity got the best of me, and I purchased a copy of Mortal Kombat 11 on the Switch and started playing through the campaign and started being like, okay, this is actually pretty fun. And therefore, I kind of just went down the Mortal Kombat rabbit hole from there. Now, I have only played Mortal Kombat 11, the vanilla game, all the way through. I tried playing 10, but ended up liking the way Mortal Kombat 11 looked and controlled a little bit better. I have not played Mortal Kombat 1 or any of the quote-unquote classic Mortal Kombat games. And so, Trevor,
Yes.
now that you heard my story, what first got you into Mortal Kombat?
When my dad purchased a copy of Mortal Kombat Armageddon for the Wii when I was little. I was 10 max, but I want to say I was 8.
Okay.
I watched him play it for a good while, and then eventually he's just like, you know what, you get in here. So I started young. Then
Okay.
I sort of fell away from Mortal Kombat for a while until we started getting some of the other games. I played the original Mortal Kombat, which by today's standards absolutely sucks, but back then it was probably amazing.
Absolutely.
I've also played Mortal Kombat Deception, which is my favorite game story-wise. Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance is great too, and I have played Mortal Kombat 9, although I didn't finish the story. I played Mortal Kombat 10. I didn't get far in the story for some reason. And I have completely ran through 11, both base and DLC, and I've completely run through Mortal Kombat 1 until they inevitably come out with a story extension via DLC again.
Right. Okay, so clearly you've played more Mortal Kombat than I have, which is fine. So, as always, folks, this is going to be talking about Mortal Kombat as if you've never heard of it before. So, you want to get into Mortal Kombat, we're going to do our best to lay it out for you in as easy a way to understand it as possible. So, right off the bat, what is Mortal Kombat? It's a fighting game, but beyond that, Trevor, what is Mortal Kombat?
Mortal Kombat is well, I can't get around it. It is a fighting game, but it is about various different worlds coming together for a fighting tournament. And the story generally goes that Earthrealm, which is exactly what it sounds like, Earth, is in danger of being conquered by Outworld, which is generally ruled by Shao Kahn, until they screwed that up and turned him into General Shao in Mortal Kombat 1. One of the worst decisions they've ever made.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so how the story went back in the day when Mortal Kombat was just starting is in order for Outworld to gain or obtain domination of Earthrealm, they had to win 10 consecutive Mortal Kombat tournaments. They had won 9. And then this champion by the name of Liu Kang steps up and shuts that streak down.
Right. Also, I gotta say hello to Chris, aka Dream Wizard. What's up, man?
Howdy, Chris. So, oh, go ahead, Paul.
No, you keep going.
And then the story kind of varies game by game. For example, in Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, every character actually got their own story. But the overall plot of the game was Shang Tsung and Quan Chi had teamed up to form a Deadly Alliance, hence the name of the game.
Right.
Mortal Kombat Deception is a direct sequel to that game, because the Deadly Alliance wound up teaming up with Raiden to try to kill Onaga, and they failed. And the reason Onaga was back in the first place is because Shujinko unknowingly gave him his power back. Well, more so revived him to physical form. Then Mortal Kombat Armageddon comes out, which was actually supposed to be the last game in the series, because they had every playable character and then some bosses playable in that game. I'm just gonna lay it out for you. The balancing in that game sucked. Some characters were too OP, and some characters were so bad that they couldn't compete at all.
And didn't you tell me that no one had their own unique fatalities?
That is, Armageddon had the potential to be an amazing game, and I think the lack of unique fatalities is the reason why it failed on that potential.
Right.
Because the thing with Armageddon is there were fatalities, but they weren't character specific. They required you to do certain actions once they gave you the finish him or finish her screen. And basically, the fatalities just felt super generic, no matter who did it. Now, Armageddon was the biggest roster we ever had in a Mortal Kombat game, and that even holds true to this day. But I don't think quantity made up for the bad quality.
Yeah, I definitely could. I could definitely see that. So, if that was the last game in the series, how did it then continue?
Because they got the bright idea to revive the series, and I don't think their Mortal Kombat versus DC game really helped.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that one.
Well,
unless you feel like we need to.
Well, I'm sure we will when we talk about like guests and stuff.
Right.
So I'm just gonna pretend like that game does not exist for the sake of this portion of the discussion.
Okay.
So then, let me reach over here. So then, Mortal Kombat 9 comes out. I have the complete edition.
Okay.
So yeah, this game single-handedly revived a dead series. So this game right here deserves a lot of love for that reason. And then Mortal Kombat 10 came out as a result of the success of the series revival. And then 11 came out, and it was even more successful. And then Mortal Kombat 1 came out. And
real quick, hello to Cobra2697. Thanks for joining.
And then, lost my train of thought for a sec. There we go. And 11? Then Mortal Kombat 1 came out, and it wasn't as big or as popular as Mortal Kombat 11, but it's still doing fairly well, and I mean, it's still getting DLC. We just got Peacemaker not too long ago.
Right. Which we're going to talk about all of that guest representation and what works and what doesn't here shortly, I'm sure.
I've got reservations about certain guest characters, and I'm extremely happy about others.
Right. So now that we know kind of the history of where Mortal Kombat came from, let's talk now about the one thing that Mortal Kombat is known for above any other fighting game out there, whether it's Street Fighter or Tekken or Smash Brothers or Soul Calibur or what have you. Which actually, first off, let's clear this up real quick. Which one came first, Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat?
I want to say Mortal Kombat came first, but I could be very wrong.
Okay. So,
Hold on, I'll look it up.
okay. While you're looking that up, let's talk now about the fatalities. Why did they First off, why are the fatalities a thing, and why did they choose to do them in the way that they did, of these just gory, over the top ways of absolutely murdering someone?
Well, it was the fact that they wanted something to set them apart. And back then, fighting games were more so, punch and kick and do special moves, but there wasn't blood. There wasn't like anything over the top, like nothing gruesome.
Okay.
And that is, go ahead.
Cobra's got us here. He says Street Fighter came out in 1987, MK came out in 92. Thank you.
Turns out I was wrong.
So that makes sense then. Street Fighter's got its thing going. Mortal Kombat wants to do their thing, but they want to be more violent about it.
Exactly, and that's how the fatalities were born. They figured if every character gets their own unique way to finish someone, then the series will stand out and it will keep people coming back. And Mortal Kombat's been on more than console, it's been on arcades too.
Right.
And actually, I don't know if it's still true today, but I know Mortal Kombat at least was banned in Japan because of
Mhm.
its gruesomeness. Yeah. If you ever wonder why Scorpion's not in Super Smash Bros., now you have your answer.
Right. So the fatalities, of course, granted they've evolved and become way more over the top, way more bloody since then. But even back then, the idea of, like, for example, Sub-Zero's fatality, grabbing someone by the neck and pulling their head off their body with their whole spinal cord coming with them, or Scorpion's fatality of burning someone to a crisp, or what have you, that's still an amazing amount of shock factor, and certainly one way to make your game well known and remembered. But not everyone thought that that was a good idea back then. So I've got pulled up real quick a Wikipedia article about all the different controversies that have been surrounded. Dream Wizard says, "Toasty."
He's
I
right.
can't I can't do the
And
voice right.
before you get into that, let me just say, Ryu from Street Fighter and Scorpion are actually seen as arcade rivals.
I
And
could see that.
I don't know why I just had the idea to bring this up. That's actually why the death battle Ryu versus Scorpion exists.
Okay.
Um, don't know why I had the idea to bring it up, but I did.
No problem with that. So anyways, let's get into this article real quick from Wikipedia. And we're not going to cover all of these controversies, but we're just going to cover the ones in the beginning here. So, under the controversies and censorship section, the Mortal Kombat series, particularly its fatalities, was a source of major controversy at the time of its release. A moral panic over the series, fueled by outrage from the mass media, resulted in a congressional hearing and helped pave the way for the creation of the ESRB game rating system, as Cobra 2697 hits here says. So let's look at that congressional hearing. During the U.S. congressional hearing on video game violence, Democratic Party Senator Herb Kohl, working with Senator Joe Lieberman, attempted to illustrate why government regulation of video games was needed by showing clips from 1992's Mortal Kombat and Night Trap, another game featuring digitized actors. Brought in as an expert, Professor Eugene F. Provenzo commented that such games have almost TV quality graphics, but are overwhelmingly violent, sexist, and racist. Nintendo, however, which had a policy of screening games for content like blood, had refused to allow gore in Mortal Kombat's release for their home system. Meanwhile, their rival Sega released the game with an MA13 rating, resulting in a great commercial success for them when millions of consumers chose their version over Nintendo's because Sega does what Nintendo don't, as the saying went.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
Nintendo's representatives attempted to use that fact to attack Sega during their hearings. So going down here too, let's skip down a little bit. As with the first Mortal Kombat game, the extremely bloody content of Mortal Kombat 2 became the subject of a great deal of controversy regarding violent video games. In 94, Mortal Kombat 2 was added to the index of works deemed harmful to young people by Germany's Federal Department for Media Harmful to Young Persons. The next year, all versions of the game except for Game Boys were confiscated from the German market for violating Section 131 of the country's penal code. Wow. Which prohibited showing gruesome violence against humans. The ban ended in 2005 due to the 10-year limitation for confiscations. Mortal Kombat 2 had been censored in its original release in Japan, where Nintendo insisted on changing the blood shown in the game from red to green, as well as making the screen turn black and white for all character-specific lethal fatality moves. The backlash that Nintendo of America had received for their own similar censorship of the first Mortal Kombat, however, informed the company's future business practices, and so the sequel and following games in the series were released by them uncensored. Wow.
Sounds about right.
Yep. So basically, what's saying here is a lot of people got okay, so real quick, Cobra 2697 says, honestly, the only time MK would ever be considered sexist, quote unquote, is thanks to MK 2011, due to all the female rosters getting their attire straight out of a Playboy catalog.
He's right. And I would say Melina gets the worst of it, but Melina was designed explicitly with the intention of being the sexualized fighter of the franchise.
Right. Until you see what's hiding behind that mask.
Moving on.
So moving on. So why do you think that in spite of all of this controversy, the guys that were responsible for making Mortal Kombat, Ed Boon, and I forget the other guy's name, why do you think they chose to keep it and evolve it?
Because they knew, more so Boone and the rest of his team have their own way of doing things, and they don't want to be told what they can and cannot do. Unless it comes to like copyrights and guest characters, then they kind of have to allow themselves to be told what they can and can't do. But that's for later.
Okay.
And they figured, with enough time, they could get it to work and gain enough of a following. And it did work. It took a while, but it worked.
Yeah, it absolutely did. So, aside from that, though, as far as gameplay goes, it's your standard side-scrolling. Okay, thank you, John Tobias. That was the other guy's name. Thank you.
And fun fact, Noob Saibot is actually a combination of both of their names spelled backwards.
Mm-hmm. So, aside from the fatalities, it's your basic fighting game where you have your punch buttons, your kick buttons, jump buttons, move forward and backward, and you can combine all of those. But what was
Yes.
really cool for the time, as we already mentioned in that article, is that those weren't just sprites. Those were basically actors that were brought onto a set to perform those different moves, and then somehow they coded that into the game. So can you talk a little bit about that?
All right. So yeah, they did have to enlist the help of. Dang it, light's not working. They have to reset my internet. My router went down. Anyway,
Oh, fun.
um, but what they had to do was, yes, for a lot of the newer games, they did have to actually record someone doing the actions, and it's things like this are not as simple as you just make a game model, animate it, and then call it a day.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't work that way, as unfortunate as that might be.
Right.
So, knowing that, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank for a lot of this. Um, and it did prove challenging, of course. But Boone knows what he's doing. The whole development team does. I honestly applaud them because every time they manage to deliver a great experience. Um, I'm sorry, my brain is just not working today. I would normally be on much better of a roll than this.
It's all right, man. I understand. We both worked a hard day today. Real quick,
No,
Cobra says, if I may add on to the motion capture thing, for Johnny Cage's moveset, they based it off Jean-Claude Van Damme, hence why he appears as an alt skin in MK1.
yeah, this is true as well. And I know Liu Kang was actually intended to be based off of I
Bruce
like
Lee?
what off Bruce Lee, yes. I like what Chris said in the chat, by the way, how I've got
No,
19th century Link.
yeah. So that's all that I can think of as far as like the gameplay. Obviously, there was that time where it was all
Well,
3D and you could move like forward and backward on a different axis than left and right.
now
And
I will
then the
say, you go ahead, I'm sorry.
and then the newer games went back to the standard left and right stuff.
Yeah, gameplay has changed quite drastically throughout the franchise when it has come to combat mechanics, because one of my biggest gripes with Armageddon, I love it because it is my first Mortal Kombat game. But that does not change the fact that my biggest gripe with Armageddon is the fact that every character feels the same except for their special moves. And hell, even some of the special moves are just some of the special moves are swapped and just slapped on another character and they call it a day.
Yeah.
For example, Mavado, he's basically just a Cabal clone with
Hmm.
a few separate moves.
Don't
And
they re-
Kane,
don't they reference that by the way in one of his intros in MK11?
I think, but I'm not sure. And then you also have like Su Hao. He is the most basic Kano clone you can imagine. And he's considered by many to be the worst character in the franchise, myself included.
I could believe that.
But
So,
uh, let me say this real quick. I will say the 3D era did a lot right, but it also did a lot wrong. But I'm glad that when Mortal Kombat 2011 came along, they learned from their mistakes and they decided, okay, we'll keep what we did right, but then renovate the rest and give them what they're asking for.
okay. So, real quick, since we were talking about that, do you think they will ever go back to the 3D era, try that again, or do you think we're stuck? Well, not necessarily stuck, but do you think they're just content where they are with just moving left and
Uh,
right?
I'm gonna be real, dude. I do not think they're ever gonna go back to the 3D era because the 3D era is what seemingly killed Mortal Kombat the first time.
Okay.
Because Deadly Alliance and Deception did not do nearly as well as NetherRealm Studios were hoping. And that's
Hmm.
why Armageddon came out. It was supposed to be like the end of Mortal Kombat. So they basically pulled a Smash Bros. Ultimate. Everyone's here. Let's just fight and call it a. Let's just fight and say we had a good run. But then the series got revived with Mortal Kombat 2011. So
Right.
yeah, Mortal Kombat 1 kind of did the everyone's here before Smash Ultimate did. Or not 1, Mortal Kombat Armageddon. What am I doing?
Now, side note, who did it better, Smash or Mortal Kombat?
Smash, because the balancing is far better. And
Yeah.
I mean far better, because in Mortal Kombat Armageddon, it legit feels like you are playing the same character no matter who you pick, unless you pick one of the absurdly huge and powerful boss characters. The only differences are the special moves.
I could believe that. So, anyways, let's now get in universe and talk about why certain characters are part of the tournament. So, we've already talked about Liu Kang, but let's go into him again. He is Earthrealm's champion. So, why is he specifically Earthrealm's champion?
Liu Kang is the descendant of the great Kung Lao. And no, not the Kung Lao that has the razor sharp hat and has an inferiority complex. Forget him for the moment.
Okay.
The great Kung Lao is a Shaolin monk who lived a while ago. And Liu Kang is his descendant, and he was the chosen one to defeat Shang Tsung and Shao Kahn. I've watched the original Mortal Kombat movies. I love them to death. And those movies
Yes,
honestly do Liu Kang. Huh?
we'll talk about those shortly.
Yes. I actually never got the chance to watch this, by the way, and I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Might do that tonight or tomorrow, depends on what I'm looking at when it comes to my remaining time. Anyway. So the movies really did do Liu Kang justice. And then I don't know how the story in 9 and 10 goes. I need to finish the stories in those. And then in 11, the story kind of just focused on everyone a little bit, but then did full circle back to Liu Kang, where he then kicked Kronika's ass. And then he gained control of the Sands of Time. And then he reformed reality in his own image. And go from there. I'm trying to not spoil a whole ton.
That's fine. So that's Liu Kang's role. Why so let's then talk about Raiden. Who is Raiden and why is he part of the tournament?
Raiden is, for the most part, Liu Kang's mentor. He teaches him what he needs to know, acts as a mentor, and I don't want to spoil a whole lot. That's the thing.
It's okay. Here, I got you. I got you covered here.
That works. Raiden is the god of thunder, and he is the brother of Shinnok, who is a pretty big villain in the series.
Okay.
Or in the movie, he's the brother of Shao Kahn.
Cobra says Raiden, noun, ultimate errand boy of the Elder Gods.
He's not wrong, honestly. Cobra's not wrong there. So yeah, he's basically the messenger boy of the Elder Gods. He is the god of thunder. And in Mortal Kombat 11, he and Liu Kang merge, and Liu Kang becomes Fire God Liu Kang, who then has control over both fire and lightning. And then, after whipping Kronika's ass, they split, and this time Raiden's just a normal dude. And then in Mortal Kombat 1, Raiden gets completely redone to be a farmer who then gets this amulet that grants him electricity powers. Which is not a change that I'm opposed to, but it took a lot of getting used to.
Understandable. So Raiden plays the mentor role, and yet in the first game he was supposed to be the final boss, wasn't he?
Say that again?
Didn't he play like a villainous role though in the first game, which again barely had a story, but still.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure the villain in the first game was Goro, I think. Bear in mind, I never beat the original.
Right. Anyways, though, moving on, and let's turn to Johnny Cage. Why is
And
he there?
let me just say this real quick. I do apologize to you and the viewers if I just seem like a scatterbrain.
That's all right, man.
Today has not been my day. But anyway.
Dude, these people have seen me so badly scatterbrained, it's not even funny.
It's fair. But anyway, so in Johnny Cage's case, it kind of depends. So in the movie, like live action movie way back when, he was this guy who was just sort of trying to get by as an actor and just kind of being stuck with morons. And then he gets approached about this tournament for Mortal Kombat. He's like, "Yeah, I'll do it," and then actually shows that he can kick ass. And
Okay.
that's where he coined the phrase, "Those are $500 sunglasses, asshole," complete with his signature nut punch.
Nice.
Hands down, one of my favorite scenes in any movie ever. I absolutely loved it. But on to game Johnny Cage. As Cobra mentioned earlier, he is based off of Jean-Claude Van Damme.
People think I use special effects, but I am the special effects.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Nice.
But yes, Johnny Cage is based off Jean-Claude Van Damme. He's an actor who is trying to prove that he's more than just a guy on the face of a camera. I mean, and then, depending on the game we're talking, the circumstances are a little different, but he generally does get approached and he's asked to participate in Mortal Kombat. For example, in Mortal Kombat 1, he and Kenshi are fighting in his own mansion, I might add, over a sword that Johnny is just too stingy to let go. And then Liu Kang knocks on his door and he's like, "Hey, fight for me."
Okay.
And,
go ahead.
And it should be noted as well, in certain games such as 10 and 11, Johnny's matured quite a bit. His younger version is like "I'm a badass, nothing can touch me, I can piss you off any way I want and there's nothing you can do to me." But older Johnny is actually humbled and not a dick, basically.
Right. Okay. So let's look now at Sonya Blade. So what is she doing here?
I'm going to say this. I personally consider Sonya to be the most boring of the original 7.
Okay.
She is a good character. I'm not denying that. It's just a case of someone had to come last place.
Understandable.
Sonya, she is like this stereotypical tough army chick. You know I'm a woman in a man's world, but let me be a badass, basically. And I'm not making for those of you watching, I'm not making sexist comments. That I'm just, saying her view of the world.
Okay, fair enough.
And that attitude pretty much sticks with her throughout. And honestly, I don't understand why she got cut from the playable roster in Mortal Kombat 1, because I don't get it. Fun fact, there is only one character who has been playable in every single Mortal Kombat game.
Sub-Zero.
Correct. I thought you were going to say Squirt. Go ahead.
I knew that Scorpion wasn't playable in Mortal Kombat 3. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But let's talk now about Sub-Zero.
Sub-Zero is one of the 2 faces of the franchise. When you think Mortal Kombat... Okay, so Paul, honest answer. When you think Mortal Kombat, who's the very first person that comes to mind?
Scorpion.
Precisely. Same goes for me. He is the face of the franchise. Nobody can deny that.
Right. But number 2...
Go on.
Sorry. But number 2 is Sub-Zero. And real
Correct.
quick, Cobra says, honestly, Sonya being boring, as Trev put it, is intentional since she's a soldier and basically acting as a typical soldier.
Yeah, I feel like boring was the wrong word, but I'm going to rephrase it and say she stood out the least to me.
Okay. So, again, going back to those Sub-Zero, let's talk about him now. Now, Sub-Zero's interesting because he's had 2 different people under the Sub-Zero moniker. It
Correct.
started out as Bihan, and then he gets killed, and his brother, Kuai Liang, then takes the mantle of Sub-Zero. So let's shoot on both of those characters for a minute, starting with Bihan.
All right. So, in the Lin Kuei clan, there were these 2 brothers born named Bihan and Kuai Liang. Both of them had ice powers, and Bihan later moved on to become the ninja Sub-Zero. Putting his ice powers to full use. Okay, cool. Well, then one day, he got tricked by... I forget exactly how this goes, but he got tricked and was murdered. And he would then later become Noob Saibot. But
Right.
different character. But we'll probably wind up talking about him later.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
Kuai Liang decided to take up his brother's mantle and become the next Sub-Zero. And that is the Sub-Zero that we play as in every game except for Mortal Kombat 1, where it then became Bihan as Sub-Zero and Kuai Liang as Scorpion.
Which I don't agree with that. I still
For
think
one
that
thing... Go ahead.
I still think that Scorpion is and always should be Hanzo Hasashi.
Yeah, I don't think that name has ever been used in Mortal Kombat 1. I beat Scorpion's his tower where you can then see his ending, and I don't even think he took the name Hanzo Hasashi. I think he's staying as Kuai Liang. I know he started his Shirai Ryu though.
Right.
So and Sub-Zero is, like I mentioned already, well, Paul guessed. He's the only character who has appeared in every single Mortal Kombat game from the beginning to present day.
And also, it's worth mentioning that Sub-Zero is my personal favorite Mortal Kombat character out of all of them.
Do you know who my favorite Mortal Kombat character is?
Scorpion.
No, but he is a very close number 3.
Who is it then?
Shang Tsung.
I feel like you've told me that once before, but I can't remember.
Yeah, Shang Tsung is my favorite, and my second favorite is probably Reptile.
Okay, real quick, Cobra says that Smoke's arcade ending is when Hanzo is mentioned.
I actually didn't do Smoke's Tower. I'm going to have to do that. Thank you, though.
Okay.
I did not know that.
But let's back up for a second and talk about Scorpion now. Whether it's Kuai Liang in the new timeline or Hanzo Hasashi in the old one. Scorpion, as we've already said, is the face of the game series and has played both the role of hero and villain. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So, I absolutely adore Scorpion. He is an incredible character. He might even be the face of fighting games, at least one of the faces.
Absolutely.
Just maybe not, Mortal Kombat or just Mortal Kombat, but like fighting games as a whole. Scorpion has been iconic from the very start. He's always had his iconic "Get over here," which Cassie Cage poked fun at in one of her intros with him in Mortal Kombat 11.
Can I say it just once?
Only if you wish to suffer.
Get over here! Which
Cobra just said that.
Yep.
And I think that's the one thing everyone knows Scorpion by, and he almost always has some form of relevance to the story. And not really trying to get into too much detail here, but Scorpion was just Hanzo Hisashi, who was the leader of the Shirai Ryu clan, until one day he got killed by Sub-Zero, end quotes. And then he went to hell and somehow, through fire and demon magic, became basically this ninja wraith with fire powers, hell-bent on revenge. And he made a deal with to say he made a deal with the devil would not be 100% wrong, because he made a deal with Quan Chi to bring him back in that form. And then found out that Quan Chi is actually what had him and his clan killed, not Sub-Zero.
Correct.
So, yeah, Scorpion's been put through the ringer.
Absolutely. All right, so there's other heroes that we can talk about, but they get introduced in the later games. Let's talk about some villains now. Starting with,
this is where I shine. Let's do this.
Yep. And of course, real quick, hello to Tim's Talk. Thanks for joining. So let's talk now about your favorite game character from this series, Shang Tsung.
Okay. I just absolutely love how Shang Tsung is written as a character. My favorite version of him is the 11 version. 1 also did him justice. He's basically this skilled liar and manipulator. He's a skilled sorcerer, and he is very, very talented at fighting, to the point where he is basically Liu Kang's arch rival.
Okay. Which is weird, because I thought that Liu Kang's arch rival was the next guy we're going to talk about, which I'll mention him shortly.
Yes. Anyway, Shang Tsung is also very good at ripping out souls and then using them for his own benefit. And he was able to use that to actually take Kronika's power and become the Master of the Sands of Time. Master, thank you. The Master of the Sands, if you decide to take his ending in the ending of Aftermath. And
right.
I love what Cobra just said.
Yes. And real quick, he also says, fun fact, MK11's Shang Tsung is played by the same guy who played him in the MK95 movie.
That's actually a huge reason why I really adore him, because that actor nailed the role in every way possible.
Absolutely. All right. Now let's talk about Quan Chi, since we've already mentioned him.
I'm not gonna lie, Quan Chi is actually one of the more boring villains. Not to say he's terrible, he's just one of the lesser standout ones. He did manipulate Scorpion very well, I might add. And I actually haven't purchased him in Mortal Kombat 1, so I don't really know a whole lot of what they've done with him outside of the story.
Okay.
And even the story doesn't really shed too much light on him, outside of the fact that the Deadly Alliance was effectively reborn via that story. I actually saw a lot of neat callbacks to the 3D era in that game.
Oh, nice.
So that's really all I have to say about Quan Chi. He's one of the more forgettable villains in the series to me.
Okay. And then, real quick, Cobra says Quan Chi is the Kiss reject. Yeah, I could, with that makeup, I could definitely see that. All right. So now let's talk about Shao Kahn.
So, I'm gonna... Spawn couldn't have said it better. Mighty stupid's what he is. But I will say this. He's a powerhouse. I will say, giving him an axe in Mortal Kombat 1, I'm not a fan of. But I get it. It's the closest thing to a hammer they could have given him without giving him a hammer.
Which is understandable.
But for most of the series, he was the ruler of Outworld, and he was the one seeking to rule Earthrealm. And he's also the father of Katana, although I don't think biological. I think she's adopted because he conquered and married her mother,
Right.
Sindel, which that also caused a whole cluster truck mess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he is generally defined by his signature, horned helmet. He has a hammer, or an axe in one. And in one, I am not happy with how he was redone, being called General Shao and, all that other mess that went on.
Yeah, I could definitely
I,
see
I
that.
mean, his character was done justice, at least as best as they could do by rewriting the timeline. I just think my biggest gripe is the fact that it's now General Shao. That does not roll off the tongue as well as Shao Kahn does. I am sorry.
I agree. So with that, then, one more villain I want to touch on, and then maybe we can switch it up and talk about some other characters or some other plot points. But let's talk now about Kano. Kano is specifically Sonya's rival, right?
Correct. Correct.
And he basically
So,
is a weapons dealer, an illegal weapons dealer,
ba-
right?
basically. And he's usually depicted as an Australian guy, at least accent wise. He's pretty
Mhm.
strong, and he's also defined by his mechanical eye, which can shoot a pretty potent laser.
Right.
But other than that, there's just not much to him. He's a smuggler who does dirty work, and he's just the best way I can describe him is he's there to make a paycheck.
Yeah.
And he is honestly the scum of the earth. Kano, that sums Kano up. He wants money, and he's the scum of the earth.
Even Cobra is repulsed by him. Which, real quick, Cobra also said, in my opinion, Shao Kahn is just a massive a-hole with a massive superiority complex with a hammer/axe that compensates for a lot of things.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Another dime a dozen petty dictator.
Petty, I am mighty.
Mighty stupid's what you are, Shao Kahn.
I do a Spawn voice way better than you do.
I know, I'm out of practice. But anyways, though, that's all that we're gonna. I think that's pretty much it for like the main characters, right? Like the real
Yeah,
heavy hitters, right?
we've touched on the main big ones.
Right. And of course, there's other side characters. Cobra
It's so
says,
funny.
"Sorry, Paul, but Keith David, you are not."
He's
I
right.
know. I tried, but oh well. So, anyways, um, so what else can we talk about as far as Mortal Kombat goes in universe? So, let's talk about the different races, I guess. So, obviously, we've got Earthrealm, and that's got basically the humans. So, there's the special. So, the factions. Let's talk now. Special forces. That's where Sonya and Jax come from, right?
Correct. Correct.
So, what is basically the special forces for this
Uh,
universe?
Pretty much what they sound like. Just soldiers who are adept at the art of combat and will do what they need to do to win. And then some of them also got involved in freak accidents, like Jax. Need I say why?
Yeah, because depending on the game or the story, either Sub Zero or Ermac tears his arms off and he gets the two cybernetic ones.
Or in the movie, he just basically slides on these metal enhancements and still has his regular arms underneath.
Which movie are you talking about?
Not the not the first one back in '95, I think, but the one that came after that.
And Cobra says at least Jax became well armed. But
Wow.
okay, so that's the special forces. Then there is, and we already touched on them, the Lin Kuei. Do all of them have the ice powers, or is it just Sub-Zero?
I'm not sure if all of them have ice powers. That's the thing.
Because we know another person that has ice powers aside from Bihan and Kuai Liang, and that's Frost.
Because Sector and Cyrax were both Lin Kuei before
Mhm.
they got cybernetically enhanced. And I don't think there's ever been word, and if there is, I'm not aware of it, that they had ice powers before going under or undergoing that robot transition.
My money, based off the little that I have seen of them in MK9, is no.
That's about what I would say because they even do have a Cyber Sub-Zero.
Right.
There's a Cyber Sub-Zero is a secret playable character in Mortal Kombat 10,
Mhm. And
and he's a great
also,
character. But I mean, that's Sub-Zero. That is not like other Lin Kuei.
right. And real quick, hello to Crit of Everest Productions. What's up, man? Cobra says Sub-Zero gave Jax the cold shoulder. Oh man,
Uh,
that one's even worse than the previous one, dude. I love him. Keep him coming.
Same here. My reactions are purely for entertainment.
Absolutely. All right, so moving on there from then, what is the Shirai Ryu?
The Shirai Ryu is Scorpion's clan. They're basically a clan of ninjas, and that's about it. They don't all like have fire powers or anything because Scorpion didn't have those until, you know, coming back from hell.
Of course.
And that's actually the extent of my knowledge on the Shirai Ryu. All I know is they were Scorpion's clan that he tried to protect.
Okay. Chris, don't you start.
Actually, this could get interesting.
It
Keep
could.
going, keep
And
going.
Cobra says, talking about a frosty reception. I feel like I've got a good clip in here for for one of those things. I can't find it. Oh well. But anyways, um let's move on now to a different faction. Of course, that's not it for the Earthrealm factions. There's also the Shaolin, which is where Raiden, Liu Kang, and Kung Lao come from. But let's talk now about what Outworld is. So is it a
Outworld
different
is
planet? Is it a different universe? What is it?
it's more so a different dimension, so to speak.
Okay.
Outworld is not so different from Earthrealm, really. It's just, people trying to, well, I say not so different. I'm talking more so in ideals, at least, because, it's just people trying to live, make a living for themselves, live life, and they do have a ruler, being, depending on who it is, either Shao Kahn or Queen Sindel, depending on the game,
Mm-hmm.
and they're more so a dictatorship, and Outworld, generally the leader, Shao Kahn, seeks to rule Earthrealm. I don't. Okay, why is it always the goal of villains to take over the world or destroy Earth? What is so great about it? There's nothing here that's really takeover worthy.
I mean, you're asking the real questions here. So, Outworld, the characters that come from there, we've already talked, of course, about Shang Tsung, Quan Chi, and Shao Kahn, but there's other characters that come from there too, like, for example, Princess Kitana. So, what's her
Correct.
deal?
Princess Katana acts as, well, the princess of Outworld. She is a very skilled fighter. She kind of goes against her own world's wishes and helps Liu Kang because she realizes what Shao Kahn is doing is wrong. And
Hmm.
she even acts as Liu Kang's love interest.
Okay. And
Um,
then of course we know that she has her quote unquote twin sister, Melina.
who
Now
is a genetic.
Melina,
Go ahead.
I know what you're about to say, and that's the old timeline, but the new timeline does something different with her.
Yeah, so in the original timeline, Melina was a genetic clone of Katana mixed with Tarkatan genes,
Mm-hmm.
which is why she had that lovely smile.
Absolutely.
Ha-
Katana's the only fat girl to actually be good at fighting.
Okay,
Wow.
that was clever. I cannot take that. I cannot
Good
take that
job.
away from him.
Good
I
job.
cannot. I can't take that away from him. That was good.
So,
Anyway, but in the new timeline of Mortal Kombat 1, Tarkatans are not necessarily a race anymore. They are people who have been infected by a disease called Tarkat, and Melina, while defying her mother's wishes, basically contracted Tarkat.
hmm so what role does she usually serve?
She usually serves the role as kind of an assassin to Shao Kahn,
hmm
or the antagonistic sister of Katana. And in Mortal Kombat 1, her role was okay. In Mortal Kombat 11, she was absent until the DLC because everyone just had to have Melina in that game.
Yeah, even though Boone and Tobias didn't like her.
I don't think it was a thing that they didn't like her. I think it was just give her a rest for a while.
hmm
I mean, there are a few characters I want back in Mortal Kombat 1, like Noob Saibot, for example, and Aaron Black.
Yeah.
But do you see me whining like a little bitch because they're not there?
No, that is true.
But anyway, and then in Mortal Kombat 1, Melina was the heir to the throne until she wasn't because she contracted Tarkat. And then when Sindel died, Sindel's dying wishes were for Melina to become the new Empress.
Right. And Cobra says Melina is basically to Katana what Scorpion is to Sub-Zero.
Precisely.
Right.
He's correct.
And then other characters coming from Outworld, like you've already mentioned one that's he didn't appear until MK10, but he was quickly becoming a fan favorite, that being Aaron Black. Basically a
He was
cowboy.
Yeah, he was someone who originally lived in Earthrealm, somehow got stuck in Outworld, and then instead of just succumbing to his fate of being preyed on, he made his own way.
hmm
He basically just went through Outworld becoming a gun for hire. Hell, he even has a sword fashioned out of a Tarkatan's arm blade that they've got.
Right. And
So
he's functioned both as a good guy and a bad guy.
Aaron Black will basically take the side of whoever pays him more.
Right.
He's
And
his own deal. I don't consider him a villain. I don't consider him a hero. He he's his own deal who picks sides based on money.
exactly. And then other characters that come from Outworld, you've already mentioned the race that he's from, but Baraka.
Yes. So Baraka, he's a Tarkatan, and in like Mortal Kombat 11 and prior, Tarkatans were this race of people who like had really messed up jaws. They really needed dental work, and they also had like bones poking out of their skin. They had these arm blades they could extend or retract at will. Sometimes
hmm
even shoot out and then regrow automatically. And Baraka, they're all savage. Let's get that out of the way. But
Real
Baraka was
quick,
kind of like,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but jumping in real quick, um, Chris just said Aaron Black was born in the 1800s, and Outworld's magic extended his life greatly.
I did
Wow,
not
I
know.
didn't know
I
that.
didn't. I didn't either.
And Cobra says anti-hero seems more like Aaron Black's thing.
That's accurate. I'd say so.
Also, real quick, Virginia just messaged me saying, I don't know what Trevor said, but I heard, quote, a turducken arm gun. And the idea of a turducken shooting bullets is fun.
I agree. But But yeah, Tarkatan, I'm sorry, I can't think straight. Baraka's like the leader of the Tarkatans, and his allegiance also depends on the circumstances. I do know he was sort of his own deal in Mortal Kombat 11 until Katana convinced him to pick their side.
Right.
See, I don't think Baraka's an outright bad guy. He's just very misjudged. He's actually going to appear in my villain season of battles because he is more of a villain than a good guy, but I don't think he's a strict villain.
Understandable. So, sorry if you didn't want me to say that, Virginia. But another species to talk about that has one character that absolutely no one likes, and I mean no one, Devora, who again wasn't introduced until MK10, but she had kind of the
Uh,
opposite reaction of Aaron Black, where most people loved Aaron Black, most people hate Devora.
okay, I'm gonna get this out there right now. I actually am a Devora fan. It's not because of the fact that she kills off important characters. The reason I'm a Devora fan is I like the idea of this bug lady that you fight as.
Mm-hmm.
She is a unique fighter, to say the least. I like how she speaks, I like her abilities, and I like her fatalities. And as a villain, I think she's really good because what makes a villain good is either you love them or you hate them. You love them because they're a good villain, or you hate them because they do things, that villains do.
Right.
That's the way I look at it. If you love a villain, they're a good villain. If you hate a villain, they're a good villain. If you're neutral, they didn't do their job. That's my philosophy, at least.
Which is understandable. Cobra says, Devora, killer of fan favorites, and just the biggest cockroach who won't stay dead. Watch her
Yeah,
somehow weasel her way into MK1 in like a future DLC.
I think the reason I know the reason everyone hates her is because she kills off the good characters. Because she killed off Scorpion in Mortal Kombat 11.
And she killed off
Uh,
Baraka and Melina in MK10.
I did not know that. Bear in mind, I have
Yeah,
barely scratched the surface of 10's story. Wait, by the way, I don't care about spoilers for that because at this point, it's on me.
absolutely.
So
So,
brain
go
fart.
ahead.
So yeah, I also like how she's always just like the hive will consume you or something to that effect.
Yeah, definitely. So, Cobra says, let's just say Devora kissed Melina goodbye. Yeah, the less we talk about that, the better. So
Anyway,
the point being is there's a lot of factions in play here, a lot of characters. We haven't even scratched the surface on on all the characters because we'd be here pretty much from now till 24 hours later. But let's switch gears real quick and talk about all the different pieces of Mortal Kombat media outside of video games, where there are, if my count is correct, 4, soon to be 5 different Mortal Kombat movies. There's the 2 that were in the 90s, an animated one that came out semi recently, the newer live action one. Yep, there it is. There's the newer live action one, and then we're about to get a second one.
and there was also a very, very small series of these like shorts about each character. And by very small, I mean it. There was one on Scorpion and Sub-Zero, I think. There was one on Sektor and Cyrax. There was one on Raiden. And there was one on Sonya and Jax.
Okay.
So not many were made.
So
I'm trying to think what else. I think there's been a comic series on it too.
I think so. Yes.
And I don't know if any books were made or not.
I don't
Oh, well.
think so. But anyways, of all of this stuff, what have you seen / read?
I have seen the Mortal Kombat 95 movie and its sequel. I have not seen the new live action one. I have not seen Scorpion's Revenge yet. And I have not read the comic books. My knowledge on Mortal Kombat is almost strictly games, save for those 2 movies. And that very small short series that I told you about.
Okay. So then with that, that's all that I can think of to talk about. Is there anything that you can think of that we missed?
Yeah, we never went over the guest characters.
Oh yeah, that's right. So Mortal Kombat, of course, doesn't just use its own characters. I believe this started with technically Mortal Kombat versus DC, but really started with MK9.
Correct.
Where different pop culture characters will come in and be playable. So we've had different, and they all tend to stick to a different theme for the most part. So, for example, we had in MK9, we had Kratos for the PS5, but we also
PS3.
had PS3, sorry.
All good.
Um, we also had Freddy Krueger. And then in
Yes.
MK10, we had Alien, Predator, Jason Voorhees, and Leatherface.
Which I think the intention was for them to bring Freddy Krueger back in that game, but because the actor in Texas Chainsaw Massacre passed away, they put Leatherface in there as a tribute.
Right.
I think that's what I heard.
And then they went a completely different direction in MK11, where we get Joker, we get Rambo, we get RoboCop, we get Terminator, and we get your favorite, Spawn.
For those of you who don't know, Spawn is actually my all-time favorite fictional character. I could ramble on and on and on for days. But Spawn
Maybe
is,
we'll have to do a beginner series just on Spawn with you.
I would be in pure bliss. Anyway, I think Spawn is the absolute greatest guest character in Mortal Kombat history. Not only does he make the most sense, but he feels the most in place too. You know,
Absolutely.
he's got a combination of guns and magic, and his personality and ability to roast the other fighters, it's just the icing on the cake.
Yes, it is. So, with that then, oh, we also forgot Joker. He appears in MK11.
I think you mentioned him first, and he's the only guest character in the history to appear twice.
Counting, of
If you,
course, MK versus DC.
to be fair, that game wasn't bad. It was just
Weird.
strange. Yeah. And then in Mortal Kombat 1, we have had Peacemaker, as well as Omni-Man, and upcoming Homelander.
Right. Which I
So
know you're not happy with a lot of those, right?
they just don't feel like they belong in Mortal Kombat to me. I would much rather, go back to the stereotypical horror characters or comic book characters. Which I
Or other
know, okay, I know they are comic book characters, but I'm talking, ones that actually feel in place.
or you could go other video game characters. Like
Or,
we've had
yeah,
Kratos. Why not Sephiroth, as you've mentioned before?
or maybe here. Okay, in the Mortal Kombat 11 days, I was really pulling for Bayonetta to be a DLC character. Not only because she she fits, her series is very bloody and gory. She's got all
Yeah,
kinds of weapons and abilities. They would have no problem building a moveset for her.
absolutely. Which
And
is
there's even plenty of
surprising that she all the more that she got led into Smash.
exactly. And they have plenty of fatality potential too.
Mhm.
But And Hideki Kamiya, who is the creator of Bayonetta, even teased Mortal Kombat X Bayonetta on Twitter, which had everyone thinking that she would be in Mortal Kombat
Right.
until she did.
Real quick, Cobra, I did mention RoboCop, did I?
I think you did.
Yeah, I think so. Anyways, continue.
Other characters I feel would fit Mortal Kombat would be Dante from Devil May Cry. Michael, if you're watching, I'm sure you would love him.
Mm-hmm.
Doom Guy would probably, or Doom Slayer as I prefer to call him, he would probably work very well, actually. Other horror characters would work. Although I'm sorry, I have the hiccups. Although I feel like the horror characters have been kind of overdone.
Yeah, horror is kind of getting played out a little bit.
Because you had Freddy Krueger in 2011, and then basically all 4 of the guest characters in 10 were horror characters.
Mm-hmm.
11 took a break from it, fortunately. Or does Terminator count as a horror character? Somewhat.
Yes and no. It's weird. He's simultaneously kind of like Alien, a horror / action character.
Gotcha. And so yeah, 11 took a break from it, and so far 1 is 2.
Mm-hmm.
Although if you listen to the leaks, which I don't, they say that like a horror fighter pass is inbound. If they do, I would at least want Pennywise.
I think that would be cool.
Well, I also wrote a fight using Pennywise not too long ago.
All right. So that's pretty much all that I can think of to mention with Mortal Kombat. Is there anything that we didn't cover?
I've been very much scatterbrained all night because I've had a lot of things in the back of my mind. But from what my scatterbrain can tell, I think everything has been sorted out and talked about.
Absolutely. So tell you what, guys, leave it in the comments, any questions that you might have, anything that needs to be clarified that we did cover or anything that we didn't cover. And who knows, maybe we'll do a part 2 to this and address the things that we didn't tonight. We're cutting it here because admittedly, me and Trevor, we work at the same job. We both had a very rough day. And not to mention, we're currently a little bit stressed right now because our area is currently surrounded by different wildfires. So pray for us if you believe that sort of thing.
And Paul, I just want to say this real quick. I am so mad that I can't destroy your studio like I've done to Kobe so many times.
It's okay, dude. I know what to do.
That works.
Ignore the happy birthday part.
I wish I could scream all aboard, but I don't want to get copyrighted.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyways, guys, we're going to go ahead and shut that down. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Trevor, for being on here with me again.
You're very welcome.
We will definitely have you back to talk about another franchise very soon. I think we've got a good one, honestly, with Spawn, because that's one that for sure, outside of MK, I know nothing about.
I'm going to have to refresh myself a bit on that because I'm still learning about the Spawn series. Like, I'm nowhere near done with it.
Right.
I know a lot about it, but I've still got a long ways to go.
Okay.
But
anyways, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. I was just gonna say I've got 3 out of the is it 5 or 6? I don't know. There are a bunch of compendiums of his right now, and I've got 3 of them. I need to get the other 3, and these compendiums are huge. They're gonna take me forever to read.
Right. So with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and shut this down for the night. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And just remember, everyone, the Force is family. And we will see you guys later.